And welcome to everyone. Today we are going to discussing about another important topic on computer network, which is a Berkely socket. So this also very important in the Berkely socket. So as we discussed in the previous session, we'll be discussing about this a service primitives of my transport layers. So same way we having as the socket kind of structure we are offering that one that we're calling as a Berkely kind of socket. So what kind of primitives we offering the Berkely sockets, and what is the difference between Berkely socket as well as our transporter service primitives we discuss in this session. So while discussing about this Berkely socket, so Berkely socket service primitives generally it is used by the Unix, which offered by the transmission control protocol. So these protocols or these primitives are widely used in the internet communication, internet programming. So while in the previous one we having simple listen, which means the previous in the sense when I'm saying previous, that we calling as a simple transport service primitives that we having as a listen, a connection is establishment, and send, receive, and connection is disconnected. So this kind of simple kind of structure we having as transport service primitives. But while we come in this Berkely kind of socket structure, so that Berkely is used in the Unix kind of thing while developing the transmission control protocol. So this kind of structure we generally use that one in the internet programming. So how it is handling? So that is socket. First we have to create a new communication endpoint. Create a new communication in the endpoint section. So next one we having as an indicator, we having as a BIND, we calling as a attached to the local address to the socket, attach a local address to the respective socket. So after this successful connection is establishment, then we go for this listen. What is listen? We announce that one whether you are easily whether in busy state or whether in handle state, an ideal state, or what is the willingness whether you are accepting the connections or not. If it's ideal state, it has to be able to accept the connection. If it's busy state, it keep it in the queue structure. Based upon queue says, it keep it in the queue structure. That is the information we have, that one that we're calling as a listen. If it is accepted, the connection ideal, so it has to block the caller until the connection attempt arrives. So if it is an ideal position, so we get the information is the receiver is an ideal position, so we block that one. No one can able to enter in between our session. So we block the connection, the connection is attempt to arrives. So what is after connection attempt to arrives, we go for this connection. What is connection? We have to establish a connection between the source and destination, which means once after successful connection establishment, we send the information and we receive the information. We have to send some data to the connection, we have to receive some data from the connection, and after successful sending and receiving is there, we have to close the connection, we have to release the connection. So that is a difference between Berkely sockets as well as my previous service primitives. But what is the elements of protocols we are using? What is elements of transport protocol? So the transport services is implemented in the transport protocol, that is data is transmitted between the two transport entities only, that we're calling as transport protocol data unit, right? So here, but this protocol is resemble to data link protocol, which means a significant, and there are much different or presence due to the major dissimilarities between the environment in which two protocols are operated, because when change the environment when change the services to services, different kind of protocols which we need to implement that one, we are going to operate that one. And a physical channel is existing in this data link layer, so it is replaced by the entire subnet of my transport layer. So that is the elements of transport protocol. So and here while we establishing this one, so there is no explicit addressing of destination. So for example, the information is transmitted, there is no kind of explicit addressing of destination required in the DLL, it is just required of the transport layer. And the final difference between data link and transport layer is the amount of information, rather than the kind of information structure we are using that one. That is a major difference. And here we having is the buffering and flow controls are needed in the both the layers, because due to some data rate or a policy control, we having some kind of buffering and flow control, we need that one, but we have to control those kind of things only in this both the layers. But presence of this large and dynamically varying the number of connection transport layer, it may having as a unique approach. We having a different kind of approach we're establishing in the data link layer. And what are the elements or presence? So the elements are present. First one is we have discussing of addressing, because address is needed. Based upon address only we have to share the information from source to destination. Addressing is required. And connection establishment, after the successful listen we raise a request to connection establishment. After successful connection establishment, we have to share the information, we send the information, we receive the information, and then we release the connection. So between this one, any kind of flow control we require, or error control, or else a buffering kind of structures we are requiring. To all these things we require, because if flow control is not available while discussing the data link layer, we discussing about the flow control or error control mechanism. If we are not maintaining the proper flow control, it may chance to skip the packets, so it lose the information. So we have to maintain the flow control as well as the buffering mechanism, as well as we have to maintain the multiplexing mechanism, as well as the crash recovery. These are important of transport layer protocols. So first one is addressing. So what is addressing? So when any user, for example, this is a host one, we have that one, and we have a host 2. Even host 1 also having a separate address, as well as host 2 having as a separate address. Even they are in the same network or in the different network, they must having a separate kind of addresses only. So here every addressing mechanism, every transport entity, which means we have to establish a connection with maybe a virtual connections. So we have to specify one connected to, one to connected to. So that kind of transport entity we have that one. So this source user needs to be specified by all the information. That should be a user identification, or else a transport entity, or else identification, or station address, or network number. All these things are needed while we developing the addressing. So that user source are need. So for example, this host 1 is acting as a user, so it has to need information, it is specific information based upon the user identification or transport entity data protocol, and what kind of station, what is network station, or else a source station or destination station address, and respect to the port number which calling as a network number. That is the needed for calling as addressing. And I'll conclude this session. In this session, we are discussing about these two things. One is we calling as a Berkely socket, and we discussing about what is the difference between Berkely socket and a transport service primitives, and what is difference between Berkely socket primitives as well as the transport service primitives. And apart from this one, we discussing about what kind of elements of layer present in the transport layer. So element protocol, element of which means we are go for this simple element protocols or multiple element protocols, or else when you go for this information transmitter received, what kind of elements, what kind of data tools we require, that one that we discuss in this session. Thank you.